Hey everyone, in this video, I'll talk about two interesting things that I found in Python, that is default dictionary and the counter. Now, this has its application in NLP, but it's not just limited to NLP, it can be applied to anywhere. So, it's very important that you understand how it actually works so that when you're writing the code in Python programming language, you can make an efficient way when you're writing the code. And this would also help you in your coding interviews, that is the coding interviews like the lead code. So that will help you to gain higher ranks over there, because default dictionary and counter are very important topics. Here for the explanation of the topic, I'm taking an example of natural language processing, but you can think about it and extend it for your own application as well. Now this time I've got a text review. So this is my text review. Okay. Now once I take this text review, I'm going to import the Spacey library. And as you know, once I load the data, that is the text data, and return the same, I'm going to get a document object. Now this document object is the output that I'll get from the Spacey, and this document object has a lot of things inside it. It has got the name, it has got the part of speech tag. I mean, it has got all the data inside it. Now for the example purpose, I'll only consider the data that I'll get after I perform the tokenization. So that is the data that I would consider. Now I'm going to write it like this. So here, in order to extract only a specific thing and create it as a Python list, I'm going to make use of list comprehension. So we have already discussed about this list comprehension in the previous video of Python tips and tricks, but I'll give you a brief idea about the same. So list comprehension is an activity that I'll perform while writing the code, which will help me to generate a Python list after I perform a simple operation. So here I'll write something like this. For example, when I say for t in doc, okay, I'm going to say like this. Okay, first I'm going to show you how I'll perform without list comprehension, then I'll implement the list comprehension. For example, it's a blank Python list. For t in doc, example dot append, and I'm going to say t dot text. Finally, I'm going to print example. So if I execute this is the output of the tokenization. So what I have done is I have splitted this text into my individual tokens, and I have added those tokens into my Python list. So this is the general usage of for loop, creating a Python list and appending to it. Now if I want to convert it into a single line code, I can write it like this. I can say example, and inside my Python list I'll mention my for loop for t in doc. And what is the operation that I want to perform? I have to place it on the left hand side of the for. So I just have to say, in this scenario, I'll simply say t dot text. Okay, I don't have to say append, so I just have to say t dot text. So this will perform the list comprehension activity, and it will result in a Python list just like I had got earlier. Now observe the number of lines in my previous example and observe the number of lines in this example. I've got only a single line over here, but in the above scenario, I had written the same thing in three lines. So the syntax over here say is something like this. I'll say for value in sequence. Okay, I have to mention some value or expression. Okay, so this is the overall syntax of list comprehension. Okay, now once I perform this list comprehension, let's say this is the example data that I've got. Now I want to check as how many times a particular word is being used. Now in order to do this activity, so the general way that you might think is we'll create it as a Python dictionary, and we'll go through each and every element in this Python dictionary, that Python list that I've got, and do the counting. For example, I can write something like this. So previously this was written for NLP. So let me modify it. I'll say for word in example, and I'll check if my vocabulary has the word. If yes, I'm going to increment it by 1. If no, I'm going to set it equal to 1. At the end, I'm going to print the vocabulary. Now, if I execute this, see, this has generated a vocabulary. But here, in order to implement this, I have made use of try and except. The reason because when I first created a vocabulary dictionary, at that time, when a single value is being checked, obviously it will not be present in this dictionary. I'm going to get an error. So in order to avoid those errors, we have created our own try and except statement. And based on that, we have performed this counting operation. Now, if you don't want to take this path and get an advantage, you have to make use of default dictionary. Now, how do we implement this? Just create a default dictionary object and mention the data type. Okay, and simply say like this: for word in example, d word plus 1. That means I can do the assignment. I can actually do it for the unassigned keys as well. See, this time I have created a default dictionary and I did not get any error over here. Even when I was trying to assign it, even at that time, yes, even at that time, I did not face the error, that is the key error. The reason is, let me show you again if it's very new to you. If I execute the previous code without try and except statement, and if I simply mention like this, I'm going to get an error, the key error. This kind of key error, we will not face it when we have created it as a default dictionary object. Okay, you'll not get a key error when you use this default dictionary. Moving on, yeah, this is another example. I'll just delete it. See, this is to show you that if I create it as a default dictionary object, when I try to access any key, I'll get the default output as 0. Okay, and there's one more thing that's called as counter. Now we can apply this counter, and this will tell me as number of times each cardinal appears. Okay, it is going to tell me as how many number of times each element is going to appear in the format of a Python dictionary. So this is the outcome of this counter object. Now, once I have created as a counter object, I can call the function most common and I can get the most commonly appearing element on the basis of the times it is appearing. So it says I have returned most common appearing top 10 elements from this counter object. So this displays on the number of frequency it is appearing. Now to show you the ultimate example of the same, here I have performed the split, the text split on the review text. So once you perform the text split, this is going to return it in the format of a Python list. Now I have sent this Python list that I have got into my counter function. And then from here, I'm returning the most common 4. That means on my entire text, I'm trying to find as what are the top 4 most occurring words in a sentence. So if I execute this, see, this is telling me that on this entire text data, the top 4 most common words are is, a, and this. So this is how I can find the most commonly occurring words in a given text data, okay, by making use of counter, and you can apply it even on the Python list as well. So in that scenario, just send that Python list and this will help you to create a counter object, and you can get the advantage of most common and all the other methods that are involved around the counter object, so that you can get the most out of this counter object. So as part of your learning journey today, so you have learned about how to perform the list comprehension, how to make use of the default dictionary, and how to apply the counter. I hope you learned something new today. So thank you so much guys for watching. And if you're new to us, please consider subscribing, and thank you again. I look forward to seeing you next time.